Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns energy cooperation, and Pakistan's energy wars. Now, our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab has inaugurated the K3 unit of the Karachi nuclear power plant in partnership with China in Karachi. How important is energy cooperation between China and Pakistan? How important is energy as a source for Pakistan, for Pakistan's future, and how will units such as the Kanup and others further cement Pakistan economically? More in the following report.
Amid skyrocketing global energy challenges, Pakistan is opting for judicious utilization of solar, renewable and nuclear energy with lightning speed in a bid to diversify energy mix. A new era in the nuclear power development program of Pakistan commenced with the signing of agreement of cooperation in peaceful uses of nuclear energy between Pakistan and China in 1986. The cooperation strengthened with the construction of 3 more nuclear power plants at Chashma nuclear power generation station site. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has vowed to further strengthen Pakistan's strategic partnership with China, adding that different projects under CPEC help significantly in controlling the electricity shortfall in Pakistan. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif inaugurated the 3rd unit of Karachi nuclear power plant, jointly constructed with the assistance of China. With the introduction of K3 into the national grid, the share of nuclear power in the energy mix of Pakistan will exceed 10%. The project aims to augment the power production from the plant for Karachi by 2,200 megawatts. Last year, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari inaugurated a 330 megawatt coal power plant situated at the Thar coal site. Premier Shehbaz Sharif has also been emphasizing implementation of nationwide solarization project to ensure saving valuable foreign exchange being spent on important fuel.
Now, to discuss the energy mix, energy cooperation, and of course the future of Pakistan with all of these power plants that are now emerging with cooperation from important brotherly countries such as China, we've been joined by 2 guests. One is in the studios, one is online. In the studios, we've got Dr. Khalid Walid. He's a lead researcher, energy unit with the SDPI. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by another PhD doctor, Dr. Usman Chohan. He's a political economist or an economist. Thank you very much, Usman, to have joined us and to have become part of Newsroom. Again, let's begin with you, Dr. Khalid Walid Saab. Dr. Saab, when it comes to energy cooperation, when it comes to power plants such as Kanup, how important are these power plants for Pakistan? Are these the future for a country like Pakistan as a source of energy?
Thank you so much for inviting me and inviting this topic on the table. Well, Pakistan is facing 3 E's crisis. First E belongs to economy, the other one is energy, and then last one is through environment, that is climate change. And this energy is linked with economy as well and environment as well. Pakistan needs to diversify its energy supply in terms of cooking fuels, in terms of fuel types, and in terms of fuel suppliers as well. If we see that Pakistan uses fuel for cooking purposes at household level, for transportation purposes and for industrial purposes, we rely on just one fuel in rural areas, that is firewood. In urban areas, we rely on just one fuel, that is natural gas. If one fuel is depleted, then we are vulnerable. Our energy security is compromised, or industrial production will be compromised. So I think we need to diversify in terms of fuel types, and we need to diversify in terms of fuel suppliers as well. So your question is very rightly put, that Pakistan needs to explore energy supply, diversify its energy supply through different options. We can explore China's market, we can explore energy from Russia, we can use different energy initiatives like CASA 1000, we can use hydrogen as a fuel. We can import from different countries. Recent visit of Russian delegation and Russian energy minister in this regard is very important. Pakistan is required to diversify its fuel types. Pakistan is required to diversify its fuel suppliers. To give you an example, we import like $1 billion worth of petrol every month. And if we just, if we are vulnerable in this regard, Pakistan's transport sector will be like completely shut down. Like we have seen that in recent petrol crisis, there were long queues of vehicles, and that was a very critical moment for Pakistan. So diversifying our fuel suppliers,
is the need of the day. Is the need of the day.
Yes,
Dr. Usman Chohan, diversification is the need of the day, but at the same time, there's also the matter of energy security. There's also the matter of vulnerability as far as sources of energy is concerned. Our Premier talks about using other methods for energy such as wind, solar, and he talks about of course how important this unit is, which he inaugurated today. It is going to of course give 1100 megawatts of electricity. But when we talk of vulnerability, energy security and diversification, how much of a long road is it for a country like Pakistan, and how long will it take for us to really become diversified as far as different sources of energy is concerned?
Thank you very much. It's hard to say how long the road is because it is very easy and very hard at the same time to have a good, healthy, stable energy grid. By healthy, I mean renewable. And the best estimate is that of the Asian Development Bank, which says that we have about 3 terawatts of renewable energy potential, out of which 2.9 terawatts, a million watts, is solar, 2.9. We're a sunny country. We also have some scope for wind. And then, of course, the nuclear is a very significant and often underlooked a source of energy around the world because of things like 3 Mile Island, Fukushima. It's gotten a bit of a bad name, but in terms of sustainability and in terms of generation part, nuclear can be quite strong. However, 25% of our population roughly is still off the grid. So we have to think about creative ways, not just at the generation side, but at the transmission side. And I think
which creative methods, in your point of view, should we employ or put into place?
In creativity, I think solar often comes up as a strong option because it doesn't need to be linked part of the main system of grid, which was interrupted recently. It can be more localized as an option. And the whole country is sunny, so you can have a more localized grid based on solar as well as hydro, insofar as people still continue to congregate around the Indus River and its tributaries.
All right. Dr. Khalid Wahid, the addition of 1100 megawatts, of course, more will come in the long run. Do you feel this is going to help reduce the energy tariff in the country, or is it not related?
The crisis in Pakistan in terms of energy is two-pronged. First, there is accessibility issue, then there is affordability issue. We need to, firstly, we need to look into the aspect of accessibility. Then we need to discuss the affordability. But now the tide is turned. We need to discuss both together, accessibility and affordability. My colleague said that we need to discover or explore creative and novel sources of energy, but this would have some cost involved.
But you know, he talked about solar energy, and the amount of megawatts that we can produce just with solar energy is sufficient for Pakistan to not only fulfill its needs but also export energy.
I think the solar potential for Pakistan, it will cover our needs for future generation as well, but it involves capital investment in it. We need to indigenize our solar potential, and we need to develop solar panels within Pakistan. So we need to import technology in terms of that we start to develop solar panels and solar technologies in terms of solar stoves and solar electric stoves and generate electricity through solar. But firstly, we need to look into the matter of capital cost involved in it, and that capital cost can be decreased, can be reduced if we start exploring indigenous resources so that we can develop these opportunities and these resources within Pakistan. In this way, I think our future generation would be secure in terms of energy security. We would have uninterrupted energy supply in terms of solar power. And we're talking about hydropower plants. Pakistan's current economy I think cannot afford building bigger dams. We need to
look at
alternative resources. We need to look into micro hydel dams. We need to explore the option of solar power plants, but with indigenous resources, not with the imported ones.
All right.
Because
That's an interesting point. Dr. Usman, when it comes to all of these alternate sources of energy, one point that Dr. Khalid pointed out, and that was capital cost. Which of the alternate means of energy, whether it be coal, whether it be wind, solar or nuclear, is the most cost effective in your point of view?
Well, in the long run, it's naturally solar that would be cost effective because it depends how you cost things. But my colleague is very right that the initial capital costs are generally high for large scale population requirements. And that's why we should always look at the equation as not just a function of getting electricity, but also how we use it. For example, it's a strong recommendation from the economic perspective that we should not have a nighttime culture of bazaars that use electricity, but instead we should have a more daytime culture of the consumption. And that is, for example, the short-term measures that you would require.
Opening up early and closing up earlier.
Exactly.
Usman, also I'd like to understand the agreement for cooperation and peaceful uses of nuclear energy that was signed between the People's Republic of China and Pakistan way back in 1986. How important has this agreement been as far as the collaboration that we are seeing even now in the form of CANOP and future collaborations that could happen between the two countries?
I believe that the collaborations that we have had over the past 5 decades in general in the energy sector have not utilized the full potential of the country in terms of energy demands. And part of it is that Pakistan has actually developed very fast. The growth of a middle class has meant that the energy demands have exceeded, by and large, the generation and transmission potential of the energy sector. And using international cooperation hasn't translated enough into addressing our needs. What I'm saying is that better cooperation has to be translated or has to be manifest in terms of having peaceful nuclear, for example, usage, but also renewable energy. There's far more that could be done through the avenues that are created through collaboration.
That is very important. The key word here is collaboration. Dr. Khalid, when it comes to collaboration, especially in the nuclear energy field, China National Nuclear Corporation, Pakistan Atomic Energy Corporation signed the contract for construction installation of a 325 megawatts PWR in Chashma way back in 1991. How important has that project and other projects been, and how important is, in your point of view, nuclear energy as a source of energy for a country such as Pakistan?
Well, talking about alternatives and talking about cleaner energy, nuclear is a very effective option. Pakistan has the capability. Pakistan has the Chinese research and Chinese support in this regard. I think if we look at geopolitics of a world today, we cannot rely on single source of energy. We need to diversify it, whether it is nuclear power, whether it is well, you say piped gas, whether it is renewable energy sources. We need to diversify it. We need not rely on a single source. In terms of that, we need to build whatever we can build with our limited resources, within our limited resources. In these terms, I think collaboration with China for the nuclear development, for the nuclear energy development projects, I think it is imperative for Pakistan's survival and Pakistan's energy sector as well.
All right. Dr. Usman, when it comes to collaboration as far as the energy sector is concerned, how important has that been between China and Pakistan? And how important is the CPEC also as a kind of facilitator for such projects to further enhance Pakistan's energy mix?
You know, CPEC is often described as a game changer, and that's because it laid the groundwork for infrastructure, including in the energy sector. But China's cooperation and collaboration with Pakistan depended on what Pakistan articulated as its needs. And it did articulate, for example, the construction of coal and other non-renewable things. And even in those, the usage has not been from domestic coal like the Thar Desert coal, but also imported coal. So China has often asked Pakistan what it needs. And I believe that Pakistan needs to have a more coherent vision of what it needs to then seek help, not just from China, but from other countries. And so CPEC, I believe in the future, can be recalibrated somewhat towards a more renewable stance. And that is what I'm seeing. It's a good sign. And that's what we have to push for, because otherwise you have an installed capacity of 5 gigawatts for in Tarbela, 1.4 in Ghazi Broha, 1 gigawatt in Mangla Dam. Your hydropower is limited. The potential for solar is enormous. It could be 3 terawatts, but it isn't yet. And with the nuclear power, our ambition at one point was to go to 8.8 megawatt, 8.8 thousand megawatts, so 8.8 gigawatts of nuclear, but we haven't arrived there yet. Collaboration, therefore, can help us arrive, and CPEC is
How long do you feel we will take in order to arrive to that high number that you just mentioned?
You know, the target was for 2030, and so we do have time. It's still 7 years away, but we might have to push these targets forward, given that the path in most countries' economies has been very jagged over the last 3 years because of COVID and post-COVID recovery. So everybody feels that hiccup, and probably everybody has to push out their horizons at least 5 years beyond 2030 for any such things.
All right, Dr. Khalid, the Premier, while talking at the inauguration of the K3 unit of CANIP, also talked about coal as a source of energy, talked about the huge reserves of coal that we have in Thar. Should we use coal as an alternative means of energy production, and how important is coal as that source of energy?
Well, the simplest answer is no, but giving the Pakistan's economic situation, I think for shorter term, Pakistan needs to explore.
Because even countries in Europe are currently using coal, have started to use coal.
They are using cheaper fuel resources. Pakistan can also explore the cheaper, whatever is cheaper for Pakistan, because the problem is Pakistan's total energy mix contains about like 20% rely on natural gas, and natural gas is depleting. Pakistan is required to produce that 20% through some fuel. And that fuel should be cheaper. If that is not cheaper, it is going to cost us in terms of affordability of it. So we need to explore all the options that are on the table.
Cost-saving measures, and then slowly and steadily move towards those that will be cost-efficient and that could last for generations to come. I think that is the key word, generations, the next generations to come. Dr. Usman Chohan, when it comes to different sources of energy, you've mentioned the impact of solar energy as an important source, wind energy as well, and nuclear energy. If you were given the reins to move forward the next 3 decades and take Pakistan to a new era of energy production, energy mix, how would you go about it?
If I could make a lighthearted comment first, because of my incompetence, I'd probably take us all back to firewood. That's what would probably happen. But if I was a little bit more competent, then I would focus in the short run on how we use energy. You know, we look good on the graphs of the carbon footprint as a country. We look good because we haven't yet developed to the stage where we would start to scare the climate as much as other countries do. But I remember a time when there was abundant gas in Pakistan and people would rather just let the gas run rather than put out a match.
Just like we do for water nowadays, we let the tap water run.
Well said. So that conservation mindset still doesn't exist. So the first 10 years out of the 30-year horizon you gave me would be more on changing the habits, per force, per penalty, per oversight, that we conserve what we have. Then with the outlook that comes from that, start to work on the generation and the transmission side. Transmission is actually my biggest concern because the energy that is produced doesn't go to everybody because of the geography and the remoteness of portions of our population. If this happens, I would also focus a little bit on the human side in terms of population management. You know, that we shouldn't be growing that much, that our demands grow that much, encourage smaller families and focus on the quality of kids rather than the quantity of kids. That sort of thing also matters, so that our demands stay in line, and then focus on the renewable part of it as being the biggest part, because we have a variety of endowments in Pakistan. We have all 4 seasons, and the fact that we have 3 terawatts of solar potential, it's a sunny country. You know how it is in summer. We really should be focusing on the endowments that we have.
All right, Usman, and these are very good points, and I hope that somebody listens to it and takes you on board as far as the next 3 decades are concerned. Coming to you, Dr. Khalid, how should Pakistan go about as far as its energy mix is concerned? We have nuclear energy in the form of CANOP, we've got coal as a source of energy, we've got solar, and we've got wind energy, but of course that needs to be put into place through mechanisms that will have a certain cost attached to it, but in the long run they're going to be most cost effective. What are the direct interventions that need to be done as far as Pakistan's energy mix are concerned in the next year or so?
Pakistan has almost no supply on energy mix in terms of supply. What we can do in short run, we can have some conservation measures. We can conserve electricity, we can conserve energy, and then we can talk about what we need to do in terms of energy mix. In terms of energy mix, solar is the key. In terms of energy mix, renewables is the key. Obviously, you are right that it has some capital cost for the short run, but it is the cost that we need to pay if we need to survive in the longer run, if we need to have better energy security situation for the longer run. I think renewable is the way forward. I think solar is the way forward, and I think we need to change our habits in terms of conservation, in terms of energy savings in all the sector of Pakistan, residential sector, commercial sector, the industrial sector, and the services sector. Government needs to take the lead on this.
And I hope it will take your advice and the advice of Dr. Usman Chohan as well, as far as how to move the country forward in terms of energy mix is concerned. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid Walid. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman Chohan, to have joined us, to have talked to us about Pakistan's future as far as its energy production and energy mix is concerned.